The guests are waiting, Zuri.
Caleb?
Please, Zuri, not tonight.
The woman Lenora had ordered to serve the table was not a member of staff. She was Caleb's fiancée, and he had just chosen his family's approval over her dignity.
You have done enough.
A stranger had done in seconds what her fiancé had failed to do for 3 years. But Zuri did not leave Belhaven looking for comfort. She left looking for a weapon.
I'm not here to console you.
Good. I need you to propose to me tomorrow morning.
You don't waste time.
I don't need another fiancé, I need a face.
The Ashfords believed Zuri possessed nothing powerful enough to threaten them. They were wrong. She had hidden wealth, carefully placed investments, and enough influence to bring their empire to its knees. She only needed someone else's name to become the visible hand. Roman agreed, amused by her audacity. What Zuri did not know was that the stranger she had recruited carried his own secret, and his own unfinished history with the Ashfords.
A man who needs you smaller doesn't deserve you. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Who are you? The man she didn't have to beg.
The proposal became precisely the distraction Zuri intended. While Caleb raged, Lenora investigated Roman, and the Ashfords whispered about the woman who had replaced their heir overnight. Roman's name appeared on the public records. Zuri's did not. Welcome to Tales Through Time, where love is tested, secrets are exposed, and even broken hearts can find their way home. Her money entered through a network of trusts and holding companies she had quietly built over 12 years. The Ashfords knew she owned a respected architecture firm. They did not know that the software her company had developed to predict land value shifts and redevelopment patterns had been licensed across 4 continents. They did not know she had invested the proceeds instead of displaying them. They did not know that a modest-looking company purchasing neglected commercial properties across the country belonged to her. They did not know she controlled enough liquid capital to destabilize the Ashford Group without selling a single personal asset. Most painfully, Caleb had never asked. He had known Zuri was successful, comfortable, independent, but he had never considered that she might possess greater wealth than some members of his family, because the Ashfords had trained him to recognize money only when it arrived wearing an old surname. The morning after the proposal, Zuri met Roman in a private office above her studio. She placed 3 files on the table. Roman opened the first file. Harrow Municipal Redevelopment. You are going after their largest contract of the year. Their engineering partner is already unhappy, Zuri said. You only need to give them somewhere better to go. And when they withdraw, the Ashford bid stalls. A rival consortium gets enough time to challenge their environmental figures. Zuri slid the second file across the desk before Roman could ask for it. Westbridge Pension Fund already suspects the Ashfords are concealing debt. Harrow makes them nervous. Westbridge makes them afraid. Roman turned a page, almost smiling. You have watched this family for a long time. I have watched people like them my entire career. I know what they hide, and I know who's tired of helping them hide it. He reached for the third file. Zuri placed her hand over it. Not yet. Roman's eyes lifted to hers. Dawson Materials, 27 years as their supplier. Dawson moves only after Harrow and Westbridge. A company does not abandon a 27-year relationship because it suddenly develops principles. It leaves when staying becomes more expensive than going. Roman closed the file slowly. You have planned this like a war. No, Zuri said. Wars are emotional. This is architecture. Roman leaned back. What happens when they trace North Star to me? They investigate you instead of me. And what will they find? Zuri expected another evasive smile. Instead, he said, more than you did. She should have pressed him. She did not. Her first mistake was believing that because she had selected him, she controlled the full extent of his usefulness. 3 days later, Harrow's engineering partner withdrew. Zuri had expected negotiations, resistance, and compensation demands. Roman achieved it during one lunch. 2 weeks later, Westbridge requested a private audit of the Ashford Group. Zuri had planned to plant concerns through a junior analyst. Roman somehow convinced the fund's chairman to lead the inquiry personally. When Dawson Materials abandoned the Ashfords, it did more than sign with a competitor. It filed a lawsuit alleging years of delayed payments, false volume reports, and coercive pricing. At their next meeting, Zuri placed the Dawson lawsuit on the desk between them and studied him. Why are you so good at this? I listen. You knew which Westbridge chairman to approach. You knew Dawson kept duplicate records. You knew the Ashfords would transfer money from their hotel division to conceal the shortage. I researched thoroughly. In less than 3 weeks, some men collect art. And you collect corporate weaknesses. Only interesting ones. She walked around the desk. Who are you, Roman? He looked at her for a long moment. The face you requested. It was not enough. Yet his work remained within the boundaries she had set, even when he pushed against their edges. And Zuri could not deny that she enjoyed directing him. She would identify a weakness. Roman would find 3 ways to exploit it. She would design a controlled disruption. He would execute it with an elegance that left no fingerprints. At public events, he continued playing her attentive fiancé. At private meetings, he became something more dangerous. An equal who challenged her assumptions without attempting to take control. He never praised her merely to flatter her. When her strategy was brilliant, he said so. When it was reckless, he told her before following it anyway. One evening, after they persuaded a regional bank to refuse the Ashfords' refinancing request, Roman walked Zuri to her car. You enjoyed that, she said. The bank chairman spent 20 minutes explaining loyalty while preparing to abandon them. He has benefited from the Ashfords for years. Loyalty often disappears when the invoices arrive. Zuri looked at him. You are adding something personal to this. Roman's expression remained neutral. You keep saying that, because you keep proving it. And yet you continue giving me instructions. Because you are effective. Only effective. Zuri should have dismissed the question. Instead, she said, You were more convenient when I believed you were merely amused. And you were more convenient when I believed anger was the most interesting thing about you. The air changed between them. Roman stepped closer, but he did not touch her. That restraint affected Zuri more than contact might have. Caleb had spent years asking her to wait for him to become brave enough to choose her. Roman never asked her to wait. He simply watched, listened, and matched her pace. He simply watched, listened, and matched her pace. You are not supposed to become complicated, she said. Neither are you. For one suspended moment, Zuri thought he might kiss her. Instead, Roman opened her car door. Good night, Zuri. She drove away, irritated by the disappointment she had no right to feel. Caleb arrived at her office the following afternoon. He looked like a man being slowly stripped of certainty. The Harrow bid was collapsing. Westbridge had frozen further investment. Dawson's lawsuit had reached the financial press. And Zuri still wore Roman's ring in public. Caleb saw it immediately. You are continuing this. Continuing what? Pretending to be engaged to a man you met in my family's house. You were engaged to a woman your family refused to acknowledge. That is not the same. No, I had known you longer, which made your failure more impressive. He closed the door. My family's company is being attacked. So I have read. Every problem began after you left Belhaven. Perhaps the Ashfords accumulated more enemies than they noticed. Is Roman responsible? Why would you think that? I cannot find anything about him. That must be terrifying for an Ashford. You are accustomed to believing everything can be purchased, including information. Zuri, listen to me. Whoever he is not doing this because he cares about you. She heard sincerity beneath his desperation. Caleb believed what he was saying, not because he understood Roman, but because he could not imagine a powerful man helping a woman without expecting to own the outcome. You are right, Zuri said. Caleb exhaled. He is not doing it because he cares about me. He is doing it because I hired him. The color left Caleb's face. Zuri stepped closer. You believed I walked out of Belhaven looking for another man. I walked out looking for a weapon. You are attacking my family. I am removing the protections that allowed your family to attack everyone else. You have no idea what you are doing. I know exactly what I am doing. People will lose their jobs. Not if your family stops moving money out of operating accounts to protect its private assets. His expression changed, only slightly, but Zuri noticed. She had mentioned information that was not public. Caleb recovered quickly. Roman gave you that. No, your company's filings did. You are in over your head. It was almost funny. Caleb had remained silent while his mother humiliated Zuri because he believed she lacked the power to retaliate. Faced with proof that she possessed it, he could only assume another man must be directing her. Zuri opened the door. "Our conversation is finished." Caleb did not move. "There are things about this family you do not understand." "Then you should have introduced me before asking me to marry into it." "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" He hesitated. That pause returned to Zuri later. At the time, she assumed he was protecting his family's financial secrets. She did not yet understand that Caleb was protecting something older, something Roman had spent half his life trying to uncover. 2 days later, Lenora Ashford arrived at Zuri's office without an appointment. She entered wearing pearl gray silk and the same controlled expression she had worn while placing the serving dish in Zuri's hands. "I prefer conversations without witnesses," Lenora said. "That explains the dinner." Lenora ignored the remark and placed a sealed envelope on Zuri's desk. "Name your price." "For what?" "You will end this performance with Roman Vale. You will persuade North Star Meridian to withdraw its interest in our partners. And you will stop whatever private campaign you have encouraged against my family." Zuri did not touch the envelope. "How much do you think Roman is paying me?" Lenora's expression barely shifted. "Men like him do not make women powerful, Zuri. They make women useful. That must be why your family never understood me." For the first time, Lenora's certainty faltered. "Only briefly. You believe you are controlling him. I believe you came here because you cannot control either of us." Lenora looked around Zuri's office as though searching for evidence of the power she still refused to believe belonged to the woman before her. "You have no idea who Roman Vale is." "Neither do you," Zuri said. "That is why you are frightened." Lenora took the envelope from the desk. "You will regret making an enemy of this family." Zuri held her gaze. "Your family made an enemy of me while it still believed I was harmless." Lenora left without accepting the coffee Zuri had never offered. Roman's identity was revealed 6 weeks after Belhaven. He and Zuri attended a housing charity auction together because the Ashfords were one of the evening's sponsors. Their appearance was another strategic move. Lenora had spent years ensuring Zuri remained outside the family's most influential social circle. Now Zuri entered on Roman's arm, wearing silver and the composure of a woman who no longer required permission. Caleb watched from across the ballroom. Roman remained close without hovering, a hand lightly at Zuri's back. A quiet question when she shifted in uncomfortable shoes. A private smile when photographers approached. Some of it was performance. Zuri was no longer certain all of it was. The auctioneer announced an unexpected $10 million donation towards housing for displaced families. Applause filled the ballroom. Then the donor was named. Mr. Roman Vale, founder and chairman of Vale Global. Across the ballroom, Caleb went completely still. Zuri mistook his reaction for shock at the scale of Roman's fortune. She would later understand that it was not the word chairman that frightened him. It was the name Vale. Zuri stopped breathing. Around them, some of the most influential people in the room turned towards Roman with recognition, not curiosity, deference. A bank chairman crossed the ballroom to shake his hand. A senator greeted him by name. The head of Westbridge Pension Fund embraced him like an old friend. Roman did not appear surprised. He looked only at Zuri. She removed her hand from his arm. "Chairman? Zuri? Vale Global? We should discuss this privately. I asked whether you possessed enough credibility to represent North Star." "You did." "You neglected to mention that you controlled one of the largest private investment groups in the country. You wanted a face with no visible connection to you." "I wanted a face, Roman, not an empire." Lenora was watching them. So was Caleb. Zuri refused to give either of them the satisfaction of seeing her lose control. She smiled for the cameras. Then she leaned towards Roman. "We leave now." Inside the car, she removed the engagement ring and placed it between them. Roman looked down at it. "You are ending the arrangement. I am suspending it until I understand what else you concealed. I never lied about your strategy. You allowed me to believe North Star's success came from my plan alone. It did. Do not insult me." I executed your instructions. With power I did not know existed. You hired me to be effective. I hired you to be visible. You selected both. Zuri looked out of the window, fighting the humiliation rising inside her. She had structured the operation so no Ashford could dismiss her achievements as the work of a powerful man. Yet that was exactly what they would now claim. Roman seemed to understand. Your strategy opened every door, he said. My name only prevented some people from closing them. And Dawson's lawsuit, the audit, the partners who abandoned the Ashfords before I authorized an approach? He did not answer immediately. Zuri turned back towards him. This was never amusement to you. No. Why? Roman looked older in the darkness, not physically. The grief inside him had simply stopped hiding. My father's name was Elias Vale. Zuri knew the name. Every architect and developer of her generation did. Elias Vale had once led one of the country's most promising urban development firms. 22 years earlier, he had been accused of bribing municipal officials during a waterfront redevelopment project. The evidence appeared overwhelming. His company collapsed. Partners abandoned him. He died 2 years later, still insisting he had been framed. The Ashford Group acquired most of his assets at auction. Zuri closed her eyes briefly. The waterfront project. Roman nodded. My father trusted Harrison Ashford. They were partners. When investigators arrived, every illegal payment led back to my father. Every document protected the Ashfords. And you believe they created the evidence. I know they did. I came to Belhaven because a former Ashford executive had promised to meet me there. He lost his nerve. So you were already investigating them? Yes. And when I approached you, you offered me access. His honesty was brutal. Zuri stared at him. Was any of this about me? At the beginning, Roman did not pretend. No. The answer hurt precisely because she respected it. At the beginning, I thought you were intelligent, furious, and useful, he said. Then I watched you reject opportunities to damage employees. I watched you delay an acquisition because it could harm a pension fund. I watched you give the Ashfords boundaries they never gave my father. You placed your revenge inside mine. Yes. Without telling me. Yes. Zuri picked up the ring. I will continue the operation because I began it and because the Ashfords have earned exposure. But our public performance is over. Roman's face remained controlled. Only his hand betrayed him, closing slowly against his knee. Understood. She held the ring towards him. He did not take it. It belongs to you. It was part of the performance. The proposal was. His gaze met hers. The ring was not. Zuri placed it on the seat between them and left the car. For the next 2 weeks, she and Roman communicated only through lawyers and encrypted messages. The pressure against the Ashfords continued, but Roman obeyed every boundary Zuri imposed. No additional litigation, no attacks on employee pensions, no forced closure of operating divisions, no move that had not received her written approval. He could have ignored her. His wealth exceeded the capital she had committed to North Star many times over. Instead, he followed her instructions exactly. That unsettled Zuri almost as much as his deception, because it suggested his restraint was no longer strategic. It was personal. Their investigations finally converged when a retired Ashford accountant contacted Zuri. For 22 years, Harold Ellis had kept copies of documents he was instructed to destroy after the waterfront scandal. Fear had silenced him. Caleb's recent public statements blaming his late father finally pushed him to speak. Ellis gave them enough evidence to prove that members of the Ashford family had known Elias Vale was innocent. But the documents still did not identify the person who had designed the false companies through which the bribes were routed. That evidence, Ellis claimed, had been removed from the corporate archive and stored in Belhaven's private records room. Zuri and Roman entered the estate during Lenora's annual foundation gala. The same halls where Zuri had once walked as Caleb's tolerated guest now felt different, not smaller, simply exposed. Roman unlocked the archive with a code supplied by Ellis. Inside were shelves of contracts, ledgers, and sealed legal files dating back decades. They searched in silence. For for the first time since the charity auction. They stood in the same room, without lawyers between them. "You could have told me about your father," Zuri said. "I could have. I might still have helped you. I know." "Then why did you not?" Roman stopped searching. "Because when you approached me on that terrace, you looked at me as though I were simply a man who might be useful." "You were." "I had not been simply a man in a very long time." The answer disarmed her. People saw Roman's fortune before they saw him. Just as the Ashfords had seen Zuri's skin, profession, and family name before they ever saw her. For one strange evening, neither had known enough to worship or underestimate the other. They had met as two angry strangers. Zuri turned away before tenderness interfered with judgment. Roman found the waterfront file 10 minutes later. Inside were copies of payments, draft contracts, and internal memoranda. The earliest documents appeared to implicate Harrison Ashford. Later ones bore Lenora's initials. Then Roman found the authorization creating the 3 consultancy companies used to route the false bribes. It was signed with the initials CA. Zuri stared at the page. Caleb had been 26 when Elias Vale was destroyed. He had recently joined the family company as a junior strategy executive. "This is not enough by itself," Zuri said. "Initials can be disputed." Roman searched deeper. Beneath the authorization lay a handwritten memorandum. Its language was cold, concise, and unmistakably strategic. If Vale absorbs the regulatory exposure, Ashford retains the waterfront assets without triggering cross-default. Public sympathy can be managed. Ensure all communication routes through outside counsel. The signature was Caleb's. Roman stopped breathing. A sound came from the archive doorway. Caleb stood there. His gaze moved from Zuri to the document in Roman's hands. His expression told them more than denial ever could. Roman stepped towards him. Zuri moved between them. "No. He knows," Roman said. "Yes. Which is why we will not give him the chance to make himself the victim." Caleb closed the door behind him. "You should not be here." Roman laughed quietly. "My father should still have had a company." Caleb looked at him properly. Recognition came slowly. Elias Vale's son. "Did you never wonder what happened to the children of the man you destroyed?" Caleb turned to Zuri. "He is using you." The words were so familiar that Zuri almost pitied him. "Caleb, did you create those companies?" "You do not understand what was happening then. Did you?" "My father was losing control of the waterfront project. Vale wanted to withdraw. If he left, both companies would have been investigated." "That is not an answer." Caleb's composure cracked. "I was 26. Roman took another step forward. "My father was 53 when he died, apologizing to his children for crimes he did not commit." "I did not intend for him to die. You intended for him to carry your crime." "My father told me Vale was preparing to blame us. I acted before he could." Zuri stared at the man she had nearly married. "You framed an innocent man because your father suggested he might betray you?" "It was business." The words settled through the archive. Caleb seemed to hear them only after they were spoken. His face changed. Zuri remembered the dinner, the serving dish. "Please, not tonight." The same calculation had always lived inside him. When forced to choose between what was right and what protected his position, Caleb did not freeze. He acted. He simply arranged the damage so someone else carried it. "You knew Elias Vale was innocent," Zuri said. "I knew the evidence had been constructed. And you allowed him to die disgraced. I spent years trying to repair what happened." "How?" "I kept the company alive. I protected its employees. I prevented my father from doing anything similar again. You inherited the power his crime purchased. I was going to change everything once I became chief executive." Zuri almost smiled. There it was again. Once he had the title. Once he had the votes. Once he possessed enough power to become the man he claimed he already was. Roman raised the memorandum. "This ends now." Caleb looked at Zuri. "You brought him into our lives." "No," she said. "Your actions brought him here. I merely opened the door." The Ashford board met 48 hours later. Roman presented the waterfront records. testimony from former executives, and financial evidence tracing the false consultancy companies back to Caleb. Zuri presented proof of the Ashfords' concealed debt, investor deception, and contract manipulation. Lenora first blamed her late husband. Then she blamed Caleb. Finally, she blamed Zuri. This woman entered our family intending to destroy it. Zuri stood at the head of the boardroom table. No, I entered your family intending to marry your son. You taught me that destruction was the only language you respected. Lenora's composure did not break. It merely changed shape. The same cold control she had used when placing the serving dish in Zuri's hands, now sharpening into calculation. You think this is victory, Lenora said. A board embarrassed. A family name dragged through the press. By winter, every room that matters will remember you only as the woman who destroyed the Ashfords. Zuri looked at her calmly. Then they should also remember the serving dish. Lenora's expression tightened. It was the last time you mistook my restraint for obedience. For the first time since Zuri had known her, Lenora had nothing prepared to say. Caleb did not deny the evidence. Perhaps he understood that denial would only prolong his disgrace. He looked at Roman. I cannot return your father's name to him. No, Roman said, but you will return it to everyone who believed you. Caleb resigned. The waterfront judgment against Elias Vale was reopened. The false evidence was publicly withdrawn. Publications that had once described him as corrupt printed the truth. Caleb was stripped of his holdings, barred from serving as a company director, and compelled to surrender the assets derived from the waterfront acquisition. Lenora lost control of the Ashford group, yet when the first correction bearing Elias Vale's name appeared, Roman felt no relief. Zuri found him at his father's grave, with the newspaper folded in his hand. I thought it would feel larger, he said. How? Like something had been returned. Justice does not return time. No. It only stops the lie from taking more. Roman looked at her. You believe this is enough? I believe Caleb has been exposed. Your father's name has been restored. The Ashfords' private wealth can compensate the people they harmed. And the company? Restructured. Destroyed. Zuri shook her head. Roman's voice hardened. The Ashford name survived my father. It survived every family they exploited. If the company remains, they will rebuild. Not under their control. The institution remains. So do 8,000 employees who did not frame your father. They chose to work for the Ashfords. Some assemble building materials. Some clean hotels. Some are drivers, trainees, engineers, and receptionists. They did not choose a 22-year-old crime. Roman folded the newspaper. I can force liquidation within 30 days. Zuri knew he could. Vale Global had quietly acquired enough Ashford debt to trigger defaults across the entire company. It was the final move he had concealed from her. You planned this before Caleb was exposed. Yes. So the evidence was never the end. No. What was? Roman looked towards his father's grave. Nothing left. Zuri studied him. The man she had recruited on a terrace had reached the edge of the revenge he had carried for most of his adult life. Stopping now would not simply cost him money. It would require him to surrender the purpose that had shaped him. I will not help you do this, she said. I no longer need your help. No, but you want my understanding. His silence confirmed it. You will not have it. His face tightened. They made my father die believing the world saw him as a criminal. And if you destroy thousands of innocent lives, what will you call yourself? Do not compare us. I am not. Caleb sacrificed one innocent man to protect his family. You are preparing to sacrifice thousands to punish his. That is different. It always feels different to the person holding the knife. Roman turned away. Zuri softened her voice. I chose you because you looked uncomfortable while they humiliated me. Not because you were wealthy. Not because you had influence. Because some part of you still recognized cruelty when you saw it. He looked back at her. Do not allow the Ashfords to take that part too. She left him at the grave. For 4 days, Roman gave no answer. During those 4 days, Zuri prepared to fight him. She could not prevent Vale Global from forcing liquidation, But she could make the destruction expensive. She assembled employee representatives, pension trustees, and municipal partners. She contacted rival investors and drafted a restructuring proposal that would remove the Ashford family while preserving the viable companies beneath them. On the third night, Roman went alone to the warehouse, where the surviving records of Vale development had been stored. Most of his father's papers had been destroyed or absorbed into the Ashford archives. What remained filled only 12 metal boxes. Roman opened one containing old payroll ledgers. The pages were covered with Elias Vale's handwriting. Beside one employee's name, he had written, "Keep medical coverage active until his daughter completes treatment." Beside another, "Advance approved, wife's funeral. Do not deduct from next month's wages." Farther down the page, "Promote Daniel to foreman. He has been doing the work without the title." Roman turned page after page. His father had known the names of crane operators, cleaners, apprentices, secretaries, and drivers. Even during the waterfront crisis, when Vale Development was already losing money, Elias had delayed his own salary to keep the crews paid. Roman had spent 22 years remembering only what the Ashfords had taken from his father. He had forgotten what his father had chosen to protect. On the table beside the ledger lay a copy of Zuri's restructuring proposal. 8,000 employees, 8,000 names Roman had reduced to the phrase, "acceptable losses." Caleb had once reduced Elias Vale to the same thing. Roman sat alone in the warehouse until morning. Then he placed the liquidation waiver beside his father's ledger and signed it. On the fifth morning, Roman entered her office. He placed a signed document on her desk. Zuri read the first page. Vale Global had waived its right to immediate liquidation. Roman was surrendering the single greatest financial advantage he had ever held over the Ashfords. "You sign this?" "Yes." "You will lose hundreds of millions." "Probably." "Why?" His expression remained steady. "Because I spent 22 years believing my father would have wanted everything destroyed. And now I remember that he built things." Zuri looked at him. Roman continued. "He employed people when no one else would. He believed cities could be repaired without removing the people who lived in them. If I destroy 8,000 livelihoods in his name, I restore his reputation and betray everything else about him." The words settled between them. "You did not do this for me," Zuri said. "No." Roman's answer was immediate. "I listened because of you, but I did it because you were right. That mattered more than any declaration of love." Caleb had spent years insisting he loved Zuri, while requiring her to carry the cost of his choices. Roman had just sacrificed the revenge that shaped his life without asking Zuri to reward him for it. Together, they presented the restructuring plan. The Ashford family surrendered control. Its private assets funded settlements, pension protection, and compensation for those harmed by the waterfront fraud. The profitable divisions remained open. Employees received shares through a new trust. The company's name was changed. Elias Vale's original waterfront work was restored to the public record. Roman did not forgive the Ashfords. Zuri did not ask him to. Mercy, she believed, did not require pretending that cruelty had never occurred. It required refusing to become cruel in response. Belhaven was sold to settle the Ashfords' liabilities. Zuri purchased it through one of her holding companies. The announcement stunned the same people who had once assumed she needed Caleb's family to gain access to wealth. For the first time, the full scale of her investments became public. Reporters asked how long she had possessed such resources. "Long enough," Zuri answered, "to learn that wealth is most useful when it does not need to announce itself." She transformed Belhaven into the Bennett Institute for Women in Architecture, Development, and Enterprise. The former guest rooms became residences for scholarship students. The West Wing became business incubators. The gardens were open to the surrounding community. The Ashford dining room became a public hall where young women were taught negotiation, finance, and leadership. Zuri kept the long table. She also kept the chair Roman had offered her on the night Lenora ordered her to serve. At the Institute's opening, Zuri found Roman standing alone on the terrace. He had not tried to revive their false engagement. He had not sent the ring back. He had simply helped complete the restructuring, restored his father's name, and respected the distance she requested. "You came," she said. "You invited me. I invited several hundred people. My invitation was handwritten. That encouraged you. Greatly, she stood beside him at the balustrade. Inside, music drifted through the open doors. Roman looked towards the dining room. You bought the house. I told you I had enough money to hurt them. You were being modest. I did not realize modesty offended you. He smiled. Then his expression grew serious. I still think about destroying what remains. I know. I may always think about it. Thoughts are not character. Choices are. Roman turned towards her. Was choosing you one of mine? You did not choose me when you stopped the liquidation. No? You chose the people who would have suffered. Because you made me see them. That is not the same as doing it for me. It felt dangerously similar. Zuri shook her head gently. Love should not make you good only while I am watching. Roman accepted the truth without defending himself. That was one of the greatest differences between him and Caleb. Caleb had explained every failure until responsibility disappeared beneath his intentions. Roman listened when the truth cost him something. Zuri reached into her evening bag and removed the black business card she had given him on the terrace months earlier. He looked at it. You kept that. I keep records of questionable investments. Was I profitable? Excessively. She turned the card over. A new telephone number was written on the back. My private number. I thought I already had it. You had the number belonging to the woman directing an operation. And this one? Belongs to the woman you may ask to dinner. Roman's smile appeared slowly. No proposal. Not unless you want security to remove you from my house. Your house, he repeated. Yes. Zuri looked through the glass doors at the room where Lenora had once placed a serving dish in her hands. This time, everyone entering it will know exactly who I am. Roman offered his arm. Zuri looked at it, then at him. She did not take it. Instead, she slipped her hand into his. They entered Belhaven together. Not as the discarded fiancé and the billionaire who rescued her. Not as the strategist and the weapon she had hired. But as two people who had learned that strength was not measured only by what one possessed the power to destroy. Sometimes it was measured by what one refused to sacrifice. 6 months later, Roman returned to the same terrace. There were no guests inside, no cameras, no Ashfords to humiliate, no business plan concealed beneath the moment. Zuri found him standing beneath the evening lights with the black and diamond ring in his hand. He did not kneel, not yet. The first time I asked you to marry me, he said. The words were beautiful, but the reason was false. Zuri leaned against the balustrade. The reason was useful. That may be worse. It was very effective. Roman smiled briefly. Then he became serious again. This time there is no company behind me, no revenge ahead of me, and no audience to convince. There is only a man who knows you never needed him to rescue you. Zuri's expression softened. And what does that man want? To build something with you that neither of us has to hide inside. He lowered himself onto one knee. Zuri Bennett, will you marry me, not because I can give you power, but because you trust what we can build with the power we already have? Zuri looked at the man she had once selected, because he appeared useful. The stranger who had become her weapon. The billionaire who had concealed his grief. The son who had nearly allowed revenge to consume him. And the man who had finally chosen justice without demanding love as payment. Yes, she said. Roman slid the ring onto her finger. This time, there was no audience to convince, no family to humiliate, and no hidden operation beneath the moment. Zuri drew him to his feet and kissed him beneath the terrace lights. Behind them, the former Ashford dining room glowed through the glass doors. It was filled with the voices of young women studying architecture, finance, and leadership around the same table where Zuri had once been ordered to serve. Roman looked towards the room. Are you going to offer me your arm? No. Zuri slipped her hand into his. I am going to walk beside you. Together, they entered Belhaven. This time, no one inside needed to be told who she was.